Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we review books of every genre looking for the best of fun escapist books. So today we're doing a book called This Book Made Me Think of You by Libby Page. So this is a general fiction book. Probably would be categorized as women's fiction. It is modern, contemporary fiction. With a B-plot of romance involved, although it would never be shelved in a romance shelf in the library, but it's got a fairly prominent romance storyline in it. Okay, so that's our genre, our plot. Our plot is that our main character is, it's been about 4 months since her husband died, and she's relatively young, probably early 20s, and she is still grieving him when she gets a notice that he has left her a present at a bookshop. And she's very surprised, but she goes to the bookshop and finds out that her husband, before he died, because he knew he was dying, it was cancer, had left her, because she was such a huge book lover, a year of books. 1 book a month for a year. And so she gets her first book in January, and then using these books a lot, the author basically spends one chapter, maybe more one section. I think there's multiple chapters in a section. But 1 month is about, 35 pages, a fairly good sized chunk for each month of the year. And it's kind of centered around the theme of whatever that book of the month is. As our main character is trying to heal, it's her grief recovery kind of journey. And they could be all sorts of interesting things that happen during the month centered around it. For example, 1 month he gives her a cookbook because she's a horrible cook, with the idea that he basically, in the letter that he writes, because each book is accompanied by a letter of why he thought of this for her, is like, you are going to starve without me there to cook for you. Here is a book to help you survive. It is a very basic cookbook. And so she goes and attempts to cook, sometimes with success, sometimes without. So another month is a travel suggestion. Another month is some other adventure. Another month is a romance book with the idea of just experience joy and fun and get back into reading, that kind of thing. So it's a creative selection of books. And then our main character's journey through recovery and healing of grief. And that's basically the plot. Okay, so things I like. I will say first, let's talk about the grief recovery, since that is such a huge theme in this book. I think the author does a great job. This is not a tearjerker book. In no way does the author try and drag you into the feelings of grief. Although if you are grieving somebody, you could probably relate really well. This may, trigger some feelings of empathy of that grief that is happening to our character. It doesn't trigger sadness in you as the reader. So that is really nice. I liked that. I like the way the grief is handled. It feels very real. Like, she is not, sitting there with a melodramatic and being like, oh, I cannot go on because my true love has left me. I mean, no, she is living her life, but things sometimes make her remember her husband, sometimes they make her remember the good things or the bad things or the in-between things, and that can make her feel unhappy. And, for example, one time her sister is trying to cheer her up, and she just bursts out and says, just let me be sad. And that is very real. If you're feeling grief and somebody is not allowing you to feel that, it may make you feel even worse. So it's a very real picture of grief. So I thought that the author did a great job with that. I would say this is also a love letter to books and bookstores. Obviously, it's about books, a lot of books, and the author talks about various books all the time, including giving a lot of book recommendations. So every month there are 4 book recommendations with that month. So, for example, in February, books to make you hungry. Then it has Chocolat by Harris, the Komowaga, I probably mispronounced that, Komowaga Food Detectives, One More Croissant for the Road, and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Books, each of them very, very different. 4 different selections around that theme, books to make you hungry. I love that. And then they mention a bunch more in the text itself, as the author has her main character a book lover and talking to other book lovers about great books of all sorts of genres. I mean, it was really very diverse in their genres as well. So I loved how much it centered around books, because I like books, and that's very relatable. It has a very light tone in this. Despite its heavy subject matter, you don't feel like it's dark or depressing. This is almost a lighthearted beach read kind of feel. It's cheerful like its colors, despite its heavy subject matter, and that's really impressive that it managed to do that. So I would consider that great. Finally, there is a love story in it, and I think it was so sweetly done. This was an amazingly good love story. Like I said, it wouldn't be put on a romance shelf, but the 2 characters meet at the beginning of the book, at the beginning of the year, and they kind of journey together, getting to know each other over the course of the entire year. And it is really a realistic love story in the sense that these people get to know each other and grow closer and find things in common and just really enjoy each other's company. And because it's stretched out, it never feels rushed. It doesn't feel like this, overnight thing. It doesn't feel like they fell in love instantly. It feels instead this sweet, gentle thing that could last. I mean, you really felt like at the end of the story, this isn't a flash in the night. This is something that would hold weight over the course of time. And it's not a lust-filled book. They do get a little bit of heavy makeout session at the end of the story, but it is pretty brief, and it's pretty PG, honestly, for your makeout session, and that's about as deep as that goes. So I liked the romance in this a lot. It really added a good flavor to the book. Okay, things I dislike. There's almost nothing I dislike about this, which is really, really surprising for me, because this is not my genre, which says that this is a really good book, right? The only thing I could say is it's very pat, in the sense that it's a happily ever after in every area. It's not very realistic in that sense. It's a little bit too romanticized in how wonderful things are and how they turn out in every area. Every relationship ends up being, sunshine and rainbows. For example, she doesn't have a great relationship with her mother-in-law at the start of the book, and that she feels like her mother-in-law did not appreciate that she married the son, and it ends up working out beautifully. At the end, they're like hugs and, I love you and you're part of my family forever, that kind of thing. I mean, that's kind of the way this book goes, where every relationship, there may be a bump, but they all come out smelling like roses. And all 12 books that Joe, our absent, deceased husband, left, all turn out to be perfect, wonderful surprises. And I was thinking about this. So my husband loves books, my parents love books, I love books. It would be really, really hard, I think, to select 12 thoughtful books for these members of my family that would all 100% be hits. I don't think that would be realistic. Maybe it would be a little bit easier if somebody gave me books because I like a broader selection of books than most people. But a lot of people, I think that would be really, really hard to actually come up with meaningful, good books. So it's a little touch unrealistic. So there is that, I will say. But that's pretty much it for disliking. I highly recommend this book if the idea sounds good. It's the kind of book that would make a good book club book, because there's plenty of things that just jumped out at me as like, oh, that would be a great thing to talk about if you were in a book club. Make a quote of something. If general fiction is your cup of tea, this is your book. All right, that's all I have to say about that. So thank you for watching, and please join me next week.